So my beginnings with EJS were really at the very beginning, when there was no name for it, and we were just a group of rather depressed and concerned people who were reacting to the election of 2000, which was George Bush versus Al Gore, before it became a famous Supreme Court case called Bush versus Gore. And what depressed us about that particular extended litigation and then Supreme Court decision, shocked us actually, was the sense that the courts had become very nakedly a political branch. And in the course of deciding Bush versus Gore, the Supreme Court had made it very clear in using the Equal Protection Clause that it would go far in interrupting the relationship among the three branches. And we were very concerned about the independence of the judiciary and the impact of that on a future generation of advocates for civil rights.
One thing I want to talk about is the audacity that EJS had to try and overturn a legal doctrine that had been put in place by the Supreme Court now like 50 years ago, back in the 70s. And that doctrine was the Intent Doctrine, which was a court-made decision that basically said in order to prove discrimination using the 14th Amendment's Equal Protection Clause, the victim of the discrimination had to establish that it was intentional discrimination. So not just that you have been discriminated against, but that the discrimination was intentional.
We decided that we wanted to use social science to knock out the intent standard. That is, you should just be able to show that Black people, women, Asian Americans, Latinos are being disproportionately harmed. And that's all you had to do. So we had a conference at Stanford in 2003, and Michelle Alexander, who wrote the book The New Jim Crow, was on a panel about the law. And she brought a new concept to us called implicit bias. And the notion is that our conscious mind wants to do the right thing, but our unconscious mind tells us different things. Anybody who started a diet will know about this. Or I'm going to go to the gym every week, but your unconscious goes, I'd rather watch ESPN all day. And so your unconscious takes over. So what we were able to show through using social science is that the intent standard makes no sense because many judgments are made and many decisions are made from the unconscious. Just last term, Justice Kennedy accepted the fact that the unconscious is often responsible for racially biased decisions, and he went with our analysis of the law. So something that we started talking about in the year 2000 was translated into law 15 years later. So it was all those things, the Supreme Court being reactionary, it was the progressive community being in silos, it was the intent standard, it was the fact that the progressive community was not using communication in a good way to get across ideas. So it was all those things that helped us start the Equal Justice Society.
Now, one of the attendees at the Ninth Circuit Judicial Conference back in 2014 was Supreme Court Justice Anthony Kennedy. And Anthony Kennedy not only listened to Eva, but was transformed mentally by some of her thoughts and went up to speak to her afterwards to discuss implicit bias. It was sort of a gotcha, eye-opening moment for him. And, Eva told us this after the conference, and we poo-pooed it, and we said, yeah, Eva, that's great. You got to talk to Justice Kennedy. That's nice, but the world isn't going to change. But it turned out that encounter really did have a transformative impact.
EJS built communications right from the start into its work, realizing that in addition to doing litigation and public policy work and research, communications was really crucial because communications in a social justice organization can really translate some very complex, difficult, challenging ideas and, say, lawsuits or legislation into understandable, accessible information that people can understand. We talk about winning in the court of public opinion, and I think that is what EJS was trying to do.
We know that there are horrible disproportionalities between white kids and black and brown kids in terms of who gets suspended and expelled. And that's what Wilson Sonsini is doing for us in Bakersfield. If you're a black kid in Bakersfield, your chance of getting suspended or expelled is 589% higher than if you're white. Yes, you heard me, 589% higher than if you're white. There was a young Latino boy who was in a free breakfast program. He went in line, he took an extra piece of banana bread, he was suspended for theft. This is the kind of crazy stuff that's going on.
This pattern was happening over and over again in the Antioch School District. Black parents who came to us with their kids about to be suspended, and either they weren't getting any special education services and in fact had been denied eligibility for special ed, or they were getting special ed services but nothing to address the behaviors that were causing the suspensions. And so we became very concerned about the particular intersection of race and disability in the Antioch School District, and wanted to bring a case that highlighted both so that they're not just siloed, so that we weren't just addressing disability, we weren't just addressing race, we were really seeing it as an intersectional issue. And if I want to do something intersectional and I want to, do something cutting edge, which is what I always want to do, I go to Eva.
Eva had this idea that we really needed to move issues of civil rights and social justice forward, more of a think tank in terms of lawyers working more closely with social scientists. EJS has accomplished a lot, and the one thing I didn't mention that I think I was dubious about in its early days was the collaboration with artists, and I actually have come to appreciate how important that is, how unique those collaborations were when they first came, and how much we learn and grow through the arts. So I challenge Equal Justice Society to continue with that. But I think on a broader goal, one of the motivating visions for EJS was to eliminate the Intent Doctrine and improving discrimination. And I think we're getting closer, and I'd like to see that really happen in the next 4 years.
You guys are soldiers. This is an ongoing struggle. As a society, we seem to take, 3 steps forward and 2 back. Very often we end up having to fight the same battles over and over. And I understand, at least intellectually, how fatiguing that can be. And the combination of knowledge and determination, absolute indomitable determination, is amazing. And so admirable. People don't know how lucky we, and by we I mean America, is to have organizations like the Equal Justice Society absolutely fighting the good fight and continuing to fight the good fight, because it is as important today as it ever was.
EJS was part of and kind of gave birth to as well as the Hastings Race and Poverty Law Journal. And it's been one of the only law journals in the country that focuses on race and poverty exclusively. And EJS was part of this. And to work with them on the Mount Holly amicus brief was a huge honor for us. And I think the importance, EJS will play an important role in starting these ideas everywhere they go. With every interaction, I feel like they keep on seeding new ideas regarding the Intent Doctrine and the ways to utilize these arguments and ideas in other works. And you'll continue to see this throughout the years. Absolutely.
Going forward, I would hope that in addition to attempting to take the very creative ideas about implicit bias and how it impacts the judicial decision-making process, and in fact the entire legal process, that EVA could spread and EJS could spread this message around the country, could impact court systems throughout the country, so that our decision-making process will be a much fairer, more objective process.
I think what EJS has always done is punched above its weight. It's had a bigger impact than its size, either staff or budget-wise, would indicate. Even with Eva's completely outsized personality and ability to sort of move mountains, EJS still has a ripple effect and a breadth of impact much bigger than anyone would think it should have. And I guess my challenge would be, don't ever take that for granted. Just continue to push, continue to look for that outer edge, and continue to, have your reach exceed your grasp.